Welcome to another Throwback Thursday. I am Joanna Bronson with A-Hole Productions, and I'm so excited to share with you this piece of theater I saw a couple months ago. I highly recommend seeing it if it's ever playing in your town. It's called Everything That Never Happened. It is the opposite story of the Merchant of Venice that focuses on Shylock, the Merchant of Venice, along with his daughter. So this story puts Shylock in an entirely different premise. It shows his home and why he was the way he was. Now, the reason I love this story is it gives you a completely different depiction of Shylock. I have only seen Shylock in The Merchant of Venice once, displayed in a way where he was actually the most empathetic, the character that you followed the most throughout the story, because the actor played him in such a way that you just felt incredibly sorry for him. And I've only seen it done once like that. The rest of the time, they always put it on him and being this greedy character and the villain of the story. When really, there's always more than one villain in the story because everyone makes their own choices, right? But this is Shakespeare and we don't change Shakespeare. You can edit it down, I guess, in this day and age. But that being said, this story I highly recommend if it's ever happening in your town. So here are my top things that I learned while watching this play. Is the reason I go to theater so much is because I learn more watching theater than I do in any other place, because it's all consuming. You're in this dark room where it's just you and an audience, but you're so focused on what's happening in front of you that you catch everything, and it can only be done once in that way because no one's recording it, at least they're not supposed to be, and you'll never experience it again. And those lessons that you take with you, you'll hold in your own craft. So some of the biggest things that I learned while watching this show is that the stage was incredibly simple. It was just these alternating platforms, and these wooden crafts that were moved by wheels that were supposed to be like boats in water. And it was just so simple. It blew my mind. Like, people were leaning on doors that didn't exist. People were listening into rooms that weren't there. And because the actors and the direction was so strong in showing space without having anything other than an actor leaning against something, simply to show you that they were in a different room or leaning against a wall. I mean, the very simple way of telling this story made you focus on the actors and how they were working. They were jumping out of windows and into boats, but only by leaping off a platform. But because of the way they did it and the way they carried their weight onto the platform and onto the boat and the way they were on the boat, those actions made you feel like, oh, these are the rules of the world. I believe this. And that's another big lesson. Rules of the world. A lot of the reasons why a lot of films and theaters don't work is because they break their own rules. They set up in the opening, the first 10 to 20 minutes, all right, this is a superhero film, so there's going to be flying and there's going to be rays coming out of your eyeballs, and there's going to be invisible cloaks in Harry Potter. Like, there's all these different rules in different films. But the problem lies in that during the story, when the heroes are going through problems and they break those rules, like, oh, you can actually see me under this invisible cloak. How does that really work? Oh, in the first story, we can only fit one person under the cloak, but in the second book, we can fit four. Things like that. You can't break your own rules. So think about that when you're developing your own stories and your own content. What are the rules of the universe? How are you going to set those up? And this play did such a great job of it. They stuck to the rules. The characters were more focused on their relationships and how they were hurting each other, but meant well. They really did mean the best, but they still end up hurting each other. So, and the other biggest thing about this play is showing the anti-Semitism that existed within that story. And that, to me, Shylock gets stripped of who he is. And that was one of the strongest points of the story and how they showed it. And I just highly recommend even reading it, because as the actors went on to talk after the show about the process, they said that everything came in the subtext of the show. Like, everything that happens in that show that strikes you or it gives you some kind of emotional impact is in the subtext. It's in the way that they're looking at each other. It's in the way that they're getting into the boat or not giving a gift. It's, in the way that they're holding themselves from not crying. Like, they want to cry, but they don't. And I think in those small nuances is what made this play so perfect. And I absolutely recommend. So a couple more things about the play because I didn't want to leave them out. The sound. Oh, that was a big thing. The sound, like when they were in the water, it was all about just hearing the waves, and it wasn't this big, overpowering wave. It coincided perfectly with the way they were moving the boats. The music transitions between each room weren't overbearing and too loud. They were just enough and created just enough ambience. You know, because sometimes you're in a blockbuster film and you know that the villain's coming because his music starts, and he's like, "Here he comes. We know he's coming," or something bad's about to happen because the music gets really low and sinister. And you know, it's really funny how some of those things can be really stereotypical, but I feel like in theater, sound is everything. I unfortunately did go to a play once where the sound killed it for me. I never leave theater. I will stay to the end because I want to be supportive and I want to be there. But the sound was so bad that I couldn't hear the actors at all over the music, and I was missing the entire story. And so, luckily, that was just a preview, and I did go back to check it out again. But you know, for this play, back to the point, everything that never happened, it was a beautiful play, and I highly recommend that you guys continue to watch theater. There's so much to be learned. I'm sure there's more when I want to see this play again if it's ever back in town, just because I know every time I see it, I'm going to learn something new. So go out, watch theater, comment below, let me know shows that I should check out, things that you learned. I would love to hear about it because I love to learn. So, like you know, here at A-Hole Productions, we try to inspire and create content that's free for your knowledge. All that we ask is that if you enjoyed it, please share it, like, comment below, and I will see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching, A-Holes.